Hello everybody, so here we are for the modeling of the last of the third furniture legs. In this video we're gonna go over the last model that's left here, and this is the one we are seeing here, the one with the swirls. So basically this is, in all honesty, the easiest way or from all of these models, or the easiest model to model, and I'm going to show you couple of ways that you can model something like this, plus a few more tricks when you encounter turned or swiveled geometry like this and how to approach it. First of all, I'm gonna go ahead and with a line, I want to make sure that I have something that I can put this geometry on. That something is going to be this portion over here. I have my enable and render in viewport showing, so I'm gonna delete, and now I'm just gonna trace out, here we go, something like this, and now I'm gonna go down to here. So I'm not worried about the swivels, so just trying to incorporate what I'm seeing here is the base, something like this. All right, so pretty much the standard as we did with the previous ones, nothing too fancy. Right click, convert to Bezier corner, move these handles on the side, the tangencies, so we get what we see. This is okay. This can go something like this, and yeah, it's okay. We don't actually need to do all this, but we can keep it. So I'm gonna put on a lathe modifier again, make sure it's minimum aligned, and this is okay. So for now, I'm simply gonna go and pull this at the side so it's not in the way. All right, so this is the base that I'm going to use for this. Now, how do we get these swivels, or how do we get this geometry? Well, the easiest way would be to utilize splines. Namely, we're going to use the helix. Now, the helix is one of the more interesting lines because it's basically a crossover between lines and 3D objects. What I mean by this is, usually by definition, splines are 2D objects or 2D lines. And helix, well, once you click it and you simply drag out, it's going to allow you to define the first radius. Then you let go of the first mouse, you define the height, click and define click one more time to define the second radius. What I mean by this is, when you rotate this, you're going to see that this has actually height. So now when I go over in the modify panel, I can increase the height so it is more or less the height of the entire model. So I want to get the most the lowest point at the bottom, while I get the highest one at the top. So I'm going to increase the height a bit more till about here. All right, so now what I want to do here is I can play with the turns, like you can see it here. I want to get it so these lines match more towards what we are seeing here. Now, before I do this, I want to give these lines some geometry that we can see in our viewport. The easiest way is to simply go over in the rendering, enabling rendering in viewport, and you get some thickness here. Now you can control the thickness in the slider here. So try and get it to a point where it actually coincides with how thick your geometry is. I'm trying to get it to about, yeah, I think this looks about right in my case, because I can see this one goes and then swivels around and comes back. So now I just need to get the thickness right, about so thick, I think. And here is the important part. Now we have just one of these swivels. But if we take a look at the model, we have multiple ones. So the easiest way to do this would be if we can either go with the array or simply just click on your rotate option, hold down shift, and I'm going to turn on my angle snap. So with the right click, you can see that my angle is set at 5 degrees, which means it is going to rotate in 5 degrees increments. So I'm going to hold down shift and I'm going to rotate it for around, let's see how much it's going to be, around 75, I think. So with 75, I want to make 4 copies. With this, and I click OK, I should get something like this. And now, if you take a look at what I have here, it really coincides with what we're seeing on the model. All right. If I put it at the side, we can see that this looks about right. Now, if I take a look at this model, I can see that the top parts here are actually visible. So that means we're going to have to do some modeling on one of these guys. So again, just so I don't have to model all of them individually, I'm going to delete the rest and just work on one. And then when I clone this one, it's simply going to be transferred to the other ones. So edit poly, like I showed you previously, when you're working with lines and you put on an edit poly, you're going to see these 2 lines happen every time on the poles. So go ahead, control backspace, delete them. And now this is what we want to do. We want to get this to transition to a flat surface. The easiest way would be to delete the one we have here, the polygon, shift click and drag it out. Now with the rotate, put it into position around here, something like this. And now the problem that can arise here is that we have a very sharp turn here and our geometry is not going to look nice this way. So we have to improvise or we have to compensate for what we've done here. And the easiest way would be to simply use a swift loop. By holding down shift when you're adding a swift loop, it's going to basically try to smoothen the fall. So hold down shift, click with this, here we go, once, twice. So this should give us a smoother transition. So now with the Turbosmooth on, we can see that this looks nice. It actually levels out quite well. So get back to edit poly. Once, twice, cap, and let's see how this thing is going to look with the Turbosmooth. All right, this looks about the same as what we're seeing here. So again, I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom. Well, in this case, I can just, well, yeah, we have to level it out. So again, edit poly, delete this one, shift drag downwards, 1 copy, put it into position, rotate. I know it kind of looks crappy right now, but we have to put it plain. All right, there we go. All right, this is gonna work. So again, swift loop with the shift 2 and then simply inset inwards or hold down shift and scale 1 more time and cap. All right, now with the Turbosmooth on, everything should look just okay. Again, hold down shift, rotate for 75 degrees, and make 4 copies. And we get something like this happening. Now, in this case, if we have some of these pieces that are like sticking outwards like this, we can do some modeling where we simply go ahead and attach all of these together. And now we can just simply chop off some of the base with either let's go ahead and try how this thing is going to look like if we try and do the chopping off with a box. And oops, all right, put it in position over here. Oops, nope. All right, something like this. Okay, and we simply go over to compound objects, pro boolean, and start picking. Pick the box, and there we go. Now it's flat. Ooh. For some reason, one of these guys disappeared. I'm guessing that some of these don't have, well, actually they do. All right, so you can either go this route I showed you with the box and the pro boolean, or you can simply model out what you see here by simply going ahead and either quick slicing this like this, and then simply deleting the bottom portion of what we see here, and that way you're gonna get a flat surface. Now, what I wanted to show you before I finished with this video is another way that you would model turned geometry like this. What I'm gonna do this time around is I'm gonna take a different approach, and instead of going with a helix, I'm simply gonna go down to the standard primitives, choose a cylinder. With this cylinder, I'm going to make it about the same width as the other guys, rotate it around, put it into position about here, and now increase the height till about here. So in order to get this way of modeling like I'm about to show you, we need to have some actual geometry in our cylinder. So this means I'm going to increase my height segments about, I think with 10 we can work. So we got 18 sides. I'm going to edit poly. I'm going to put an edit poly on top of this. And I'm going to go ahead, select the top and the bottom portions and delete those. So this is what I'm actually going to do now. I'm going to select one of the edges, skip 2, select 1, skip 2, select 1. Again, skip 2, select 1, skip another 2, select 1, and you get the idea. So with what we have here is a selection of edges. Now, before I do anything else, since I already have this selection made, I'm going to go ahead and from the modifier list, I'm going to select a twist modifier. So this modifier is basically going to twist up our model. Now, you need to make sure that before you add the twist modifier, you have your pivot set up in the center. Because if it's not centered in the center of your model, the twisting is going to give you some weird results. So let's put it at 360 and see what this is going to give us. So as you can see, our geometry is pretty twisted up. So I'm going to put an edit poly on top of this. And now when I press the 2 button or the edge selection, I have that selection I previously made. I'm simply going to loop it. So with this loop, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to chamfer this, or I can actually extrude it. With the extrude, I can now choose whether I want it to be inwards or outwards. In this case, I'm gonna have to go inwards so I can get this effect happening. So click OK. And now if we turbo smooth it, we get this kind of a result. If we take a look from all sides, it looks like a drill. So in many cases, when you're working with furniture, it's quite possible that you're gonna end up having to model something like this. So knowing how to model it, it's a really nice trick and it can help. Plus, if you wanna get nice rounded edges on these, all you have to do is select these middle parts. So as you can see, I'm just going around and selecting the middle portions. And now I'm going to ring it. And with this selection, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a new modifier called push modifier. This modifier is basically like a scale, but it's scaling everything in its local axes. So with this, I can give it some more thickness or put it inwards, depending on what I want. For example, if I put it inwards, I'm going to get a different result. I'm going to get something like this, which again can be a neat trick to know because it looks nice, plus you can use it in your models. But if you put it, for example, outwards, you're going to get something similar to our model over here. You can go the extra step, and now you can simply go ahead, select the edges in the middle, so in between these ridges, select them all. Oops, select these and this one and simply loop them all. And with this, now I can either decide to extrude it one more time inwards, or I can choose to go outwards with a bit of a, there we go, something like this. And now you take a look at this, you get a nice swivel, and in the middle part you have nice ridges. So it can better define this, or instead of going outwards, you can simply choose to go, oops, you can simply choose to go inwards. Let me just select what I had here. And of course this, sometimes it can bug out, but it's not a big problem, as you pretty much got the idea what I'm trying to do. Now, in order to get this to transition towards something like a box, the easiest thing that you can do is drop on another edit poly. Well, actually, I'm gonna select it just once like this, and now I'm going to collapse this entire stack. So right click, convert to an editable poly, and with this I'm gonna right click and just click on the regularize. If you remember from the previous videos, we try to explain what regularize does. And to soften up this transition, again, I'm simply going to hold down Shift, click Swift Loop, and get this result happening. So now, when I yank it up like this and put a turbo smooth, we get this transition happening on the top. And now if we put one of these pieces on top, it's going to close it up rather nicely. We can do the same thing for the bottom. All right, once, right click, regularize, Swift Loop, hold down Shift, 2 clicks, or maybe even 3, help the transition, turbo smooth, and there we go. We got this kind of an effect. So with this, I'm going to put it on the side, and we should be pretty much done. We've covered all of the possible cases we see here in this image, and we even went over and did or showed you one extra way of modeling geometry like this. So that would be it for this modeling series. So I hope you guys liked these videos, and most important of all, I hope you guys learned some tricks when you're modeling stuff like this. So if you liked it, then subscribe, comment, share it around so it can reach more people. So take care, and I'll see you all in the next video.